Okay, what I'm about to tell you is the history of how the Labor Party, and then followed by the Liberal Party, have systematically taken over control of the Commonwealth of Australia. They've lied, they've cheated, and they've done everything they can to put themselves above us, when at all times they are our servants. The Parliament is not supreme. The Parliament is not sovereign. The Parliament is only a legislature. It cannot put laws together. It can only debate and pass laws and hand them back to the Governor for his signature for and on behalf of the Crown, which binds a law to the Constitution. It binds the Crown so that the law that is made pursuant to the Constitution becomes actual law. Now, it started in 1907 with a little gentleman named Billy Hughes, who purported to be the Prime Minister. He decided we would have conscription, which is against our Constitution. I'm not going to get into the debate on that. It's constitutionally wrong, can't do it, it's not his army. The Army, Navy and Air Force is under control of the Governor-General, not the Parliament. End of the story. Then he brought in preferential voting. Everybody says, oh, no, it's only been out a few years. No, it hasn't. It was 1907. They passed a law allowing it to do it, or what they call a law. Then they changed the royal style and title of the Crown, that nice big emblem, to the kangaroo and emu. He did it. In 1907, he had a referendum to try and wipe out the statute of monopolies. 1913, he tried it again. Both times the people said no. If they try it again, they get wiped out. Now, 1919, he decided that he had the authority to sign the Treaty of Versailles. Some say he didn't do it, it doesn't exist. That's all nonsense. He did do it. And they said that we became a so-called founding member of the League of Nations. When did we, the people, sign it? When did we have a referendum? We didn't. So it doesn't exist. In 1919, just before Christmas, Sir Edmund Barton, who was at that time the Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia, went before the Parliament and demanded answers from Billy Hughes. They couldn't answer him before Christmas, so they decided to put him off till after Christmas. And look at that. Sir Edmund Barton was murdered. He was poisoned with arsenic, I believe. The questions have never been answered. Why not? They had no intentions of answering him at all. Who killed Sir Edmund Barton? You guess. I'm guessing. I got a fair idea. Now we go to 1942, where John, Prime Minister, decided that he could put through the Statute of Westminster Adoption Act. Now, John Curtin, he didn't live very long. He died within the first year or just after the first year of his position. That is insane to do what he did. How can you put in place a law which is automatically in place? Every Imperial Act is in place, subject to our Constitution. And look what he did to make it totally unlawful. He backdated it till 1932. How do you do that when the Constitution prohibits you doing that? You can't do it. You cannot backdate laws. Then we move along till 1960, when they decided to change our currency from pounds, shillings and pence, which is in our Constitution, to dollars and cents without our consent. That's unlawful. They then decided to change our properties from imperial measurements to metric measurements. That's unlawful. They need permission from the people. Now you go to 1973, where good old Gough Whitlam signed the Treaty of Rome, or the Unionist Treaty. Came back to Australia and produced some 300 acts. All are treason. No permission from the people, no authority. Now, he changed the status of the Governor to just an employee of the government. Sits in Parliament as a symbol. The Governor-General, the same. And from that started the lies. Then in 1974, they decided we had to have a local government, another form of government. Didn't bother going to the people until in 1974, and then when they lost, They decide, well, too bad what the people decide, we're going to have it anyway. So in 1979, every state in this country created a local government, and in this state, and they added it to their constitutions. Why would you add local government to the state constitutions when 106 of the Constitution, our Constitution, states the state constitutions can continue at federation subject to our Constitution and altered in accordance with our Constitution. Altered, not changed, not amended, not repealed, just altered. What did they do? They just added, in Western Australia, they had already removed section 52 and 53, and they added local government into it. That changes it. What part of you don't have the authority don't you understand? You're not sovereign, you're not supreme, you had no rights. Then, didn't matter, you went ahead and did it anyway. Then along comes 1986, the Australia Act. And that Australia Act says we are going to take counsel with all the parliaments of the states, and they're going to make request acts, and we're going to change the status of the parliament to a total sovereign parliament sitting over everything and doing whatever they like. And they call it the Australia Act. It's a joke. It doesn't exist. They're only pretending because they knew they had no authority. 1988, they had another shot at adding local government to the Commonwealth Constitution. See, they're telling you one hand with the Australia Act, we've got all this authority, then saying, no we don't, we're going to ask the people if we can have the authority. They wanted to add 119A to the Commonwealth Constitution because they knew unless the Commonwealth Constitution recognised local government, it couldn't be in the state one. There would be no other reason to do it. Anything else is a lie. The first question was, do you approve the continuance of local government? We said no. From then on it couldn't continue. Do you approve the establishment of local government? We said no. From then on it couldn't be established. Then the other two questions were in relation to empowering local government. We said no, so they got no authority. But you went ahead and did it anyway. Why? Then you go to the 1988 constitutional conferences you had. Didn't tell us, did whatever you liked, and you had that traitor Gough Whitlam sitting there. He was sacked. He was sacked because he committed an act of treason against the Commonwealth, and he was removed by the Queen's representative who was there to protect us. He actually stood up and sacked Gough Whitlam for a lawful reason. The government now is trying to hide the letters from the Queen to the Governor-General. They don't want them out because it will expose a lot of things. I don't know what it's going to expose, but it should be put out anyway. It's our business. We are the Commonwealth, not the government. We. Understand. Then they went ahead and they got together with all the parliaments of the state and they got a request act from every parliament of every state. Hang on. Both times we didn't have anything to do with the Request Act. So how did the state parliament that serves us have a Request Act to the federal parliament to change the whole status of the Commonwealth into a republic? 1999, they put it to us and we said no. They decide, who cares what you say, we're having it anyway. Then you have a look at, they produced a new constitution, a nice little green one, all put together by the political parties, copyrighted to the political parties. Every single part of the annotation of that is a fraud. Now, how did they get away with it? How did they get away with what they're doing now? How did they get away with this plebiscite? What's a plebiscite? Where does the Constitution authorise a plebiscite? It doesn't. A referendum. Why haven't we had a referendum in relation to issues? Doesn't matter if you believe in the issues or not, has to be by referendum. You cannot alter or interfere with the Constitution without a referendum. So all your laws are a joke. Now, there is an overriding section of the Constitution that's been used since 1907 by the Labor Party, joined by the Liberal Party, Nationals, Greens, the Country Party before, all the political parties who have no regard for the people at all, even though they're being paid by them, supposedly serving them. That is section 51, subsection 38 of the Constitution. It's on the front of the Australia Act. It says this Act is made pursuant to the authority granted by section 51, subsection 38 of the Constitution. It says, with the conferral of the parliaments of the states, the federal government can exercise authority at its federation. Look up Quick and Garran, our lawful constitution. It says they didn't have any. Because on the proclamation of the Constitution, on the 9th of July 1900, the old entities known as the Australasian Council and the colonies ceased to exist. And that was pursuant to Clause 7 to our Constitution. And it states that. But Quick and Garran said, but even if that wasn't so, but it was, there was only 7 legislative areas ever exercisable by the Australasian Council and even less by the colonies. And all 7 are contained in Section 51 of the Constitution. I've read the Constitution plenty of times. Way too many for any normal person, but I've read it, I want to learn it to use against the unlawful, treasonous government of this country. Now, anyone who likes to pop up can show me where the government, federal or state, has authority over land. It doesn't. The land is transferred from the Crown to the people in fee simple. Fee simple is in Chalice Real Property, 3rd edition at 284. It is an allodial title issued to us. We own the land completely. The Crown has no authority. Well, the only authority to tax land is under the Crown. If it's alienated from it, how can they have it? They don't. So what did they do? Go have a look at all the laws, imperial laws. It's the Crown in right of the state, which is the people. What is wrong with you people that you don't understand is the Crown in right of the people. The Commonwealth is the people. We, the people, not the government. They are our servants. They are trying to take everything you own. I read a thing in one of my previous videos, what the state parliament has decided, they are the Crown. No, they're not. That's a lie. The Crown is God. The Queen is the monarch, God's representative, upholds the faith, the Church of England. Don't care if you don't believe in God, you better. Wake up to the fact that local government doesn't exist in our Commonwealth Constitution, it can't exist in our state constitution, and it doesn't exist. All the documents for immigration say Australia has 3 tiers of government, federal, state and local. That's a lie. The documents are fraud. It's made by fraudsters and liars. Look at that. That's our parliament pretending to be a government called the Australian government. That is fraud. I have nothing more to say on the subject I've just put to you. You should look at it, look at your constitution, and you'll see that I am correct. The next video will be on what we've done about it. And these nice little politicians better get their hands out of our pockets, better return all the money they've stolen, give back everything they've sold to overseas shareholders in America under the 18 corporations that have everything we own, everything we do, our labour, the whole lot, all in there with shares issued against it. Our earning capacity is subject to shares. Have a look at your latest census, it's on there. New prospectus, they can issue more shares. More people here. What do you think they want to fill this country up with people for? Every time a person comes here, whether they work or not, they'll just screw a bit more tax out of us to pay them the dollar or whatever. That's not the issue. The issue is it's so they can get more money for shares. Where's that money going? We don't see it. They borrow money to run this country when they've got thousands of trillions of dollars sitting there in our assets. Ours. Think about what I've said.